My best friend promised she'd pay for my entire bachelorette trip. Then, 3 days before we left, she demanded $900 from each of us. The first thing my best friend said when she called me was, "You're going to be my maid of honor." I smiled before she even finished the sentence. For years, I had imagined what it would feel like to stand beside her on her wedding day. We had known each other since college. She had been there when I cried over exams, when I lost my first job opportunity, and when I moved into my tiny apartment with barely enough money to buy furniture. And I had always been there for her. Even when I couldn't afford it. So when she told me she was getting married, I didn't hesitate. Then she said, "And I already planned the bachelorette." I laughed. "Already?" "Of course. You know me." She sent the itinerary to our group chat that night. 3 nights. A luxury resort. Private villa. Spa treatments. A fancy dinner, boat party, matching outfits, and flights. I stared at the total at the bottom of the message. $900. I read it twice. Then 3 times. My monthly savings weren't even close to that. I typed, "This looks amazing." Then I deleted it. I typed, "Are we all splitting this?" She immediately replied, "Obviously not. I'm paying for everything." A few girls sent heart emojis. Someone wrote, "You're literally the best bride ever." The bride replied, "I want everyone to enjoy without worrying about money." I finally breathed again. I didn't have to choose between celebrating my best friend and emptying my bank account. I called her privately afterward. "Are you sure you're covering the trip?" She laughed. "Why are you asking like that?" "Because it's expensive." "Don't worry about it. I've got it." I believed her. That was my first mistake. The trip was 2 weeks away, and I started planning my outfits. For once, I allowed myself to be excited. But 3 days before we were supposed to leave, the bride sent a message that made my stomach drop. "Girls, tiny update. Can everyone please send their share by tonight?" I thought it was a joke. Then another message appeared. $900 each, red heart. I stared at my phone. Then I called her. She answered like nothing was wrong. "Hey. Did you mean $90? "No." There was a pause. $900. But you said you were paying." I said I was paying for the main things. "You said you were paying for everything." She sighed. "Okay, technically, yes. But there were other expenses." "What other expenses?" "Decorations. Deposits. Food. Changes. Extra rooms. You know how weddings are. But you told us you had it covered." "I did. I just didn't realize how expensive everything would become." I looked at my bank balance. I had enough for rent, groceries, and emergencies. Not a luxury vacation. "Can I skip the trip?" Her voice changed. "Seriously? I don't have $900. You knew there would be costs." "No. I knew you said you were paying." She went silent. Then she said something I will never forget. "You're supposed to be my maid of honor." And somehow, in that moment, I felt like I was the one who had done something wrong. I didn't know it yet, but that phone call was about to destroy our friendship. And the strangest part? The money wasn't even the biggest lie. I spent the entire night trying to figure out how I could make the money appear. I checked my savings. I checked my credit card. I even considered asking my parents. Then I stopped. Why was I doing this? Because I loved her? Or because I had spent my entire life believing that being a good friend meant adjusting myself until everyone else was comfortable? I had always been the person who said, "It's okay. Can't afford the restaurant? It's okay, I'll eat something small. Can't make it home? It's okay, I'll come to you. Need help moving? It's okay, I'll take a day off. Someone forgot to pay me back. It's okay. I had made "it's okay" my entire personality. So when the bride called me the next morning, I expected an apology. Instead she said, "The girls are upset." Why? Because you're making this difficult. I'm making this difficult? You're the only one complaining. I couldn't believe it. I didn't complain. I just said I can't afford it. Well, everyone else is figuring it out. Then everyone else can go. She laughed bitterly. Wow. What? I didn't think you would do this to me. I swallowed. I'm not doing anything to you. You're supposed to stand beside me. I still want to. Then find the money. That sentence stayed in my head all day. Find the money. As if money was something you found under the couch. That evening, one of the bridesmaids privately messaged me. She said, "Don't fight with her. She's stressed." I asked, "Did she tell you she was paying for the trip?" She replied immediately. Yes. My heart sank. Another bridesmaid confirmed it. Yes, she definitely said she'd cover it. Then I asked something else. Did she tell you about the extra expenses? No. She told us the same thing she told you. That she was covering everything. Now I knew something was wrong. I went back through the group chat. I found the original message. I'm paying for everything. Not the main things. Everything. I took a screenshot. Then I noticed something else. The amount she was asking from each of us was almost exactly the amount she had originally said the entire trip would cost. That meant the money she claimed was going toward extra expenses didn't make sense. So where was the money going? I called her. No answer. I texted. No response. Then another bridesmaid called me. Her voice was strangely quiet. There's something you should know. What? She told people you were having financial problems. I froze. What? She said you were embarrassed that you couldn't afford the trip. I felt my face burn. I never told her I was embarrassed. I know. Who else did she tell? Almost everyone. Then came the part that hurt even more. She also said you were jealous of the wedding. I laughed because I honestly didn't know what else to do. Jealous? Of what? My best friend? My own friend was telling people I couldn't afford a trip because I was jealous of her. And suddenly I realized something. This wasn't about the Bachelorette anymore. She needed everyone to believe I was the problem. But why? The next day, I received a message from a bridesmaid I barely knew. It was just one sentence. Please don't send her any money yet. I stared at it. Then she sent me a screenshot. It was a conversation between her and the bride. The bride had written, "Don't worry about her. She'll eventually pay. She always does." I read that sentence over and over. She always does. That was when everything clicked. She wasn't surprised that I couldn't afford the trip. She knew. She knew exactly how I behaved. She knew I hated disappointing people. She knew I would borrow, sacrifice, and adjust before saying no. And she had counted on it. I asked the bridesmaid where she got the screenshot. She said there were more. Apparently, the bride had been talking about me in another group. I saw messages saying I was cheap, difficult, and dramatic. One message said, "She acts like she's above us because she doesn't want to spend." I couldn't believe what I was reading. I had spent years trying to make sure she never felt unsupported. And behind my back, she had turned my financial situation into entertainment. Then I noticed something even stranger. A message about the villa. The bride had written, "I already got the villa at a discount." Another message said, "My cousin is handling the decorations for free." Then, the restaurant gave us a package deal. I did the math. The trip wasn't $900 per person. It wasn't even close. I called the bridesmaid. "Where did you get these numbers?" She said, "I asked the hotel." My stomach dropped. "How much is the entire villa?" She told me. Then she told me the actual cost of the rooms, food, boat, and spa. Even with everything included, the amount was nowhere near what the bride was asking from us. There was a huge difference. Hundreds of dollars per person. I asked the bridesmaid one question. "Where is the rest going?" She didn't answer. Because neither of us knew. Then another screenshot arrived. This one was from the bride's fiancé. Apparently, he had asked her why she was collecting so much money. Her response was, "I need to recover what I spent on the wedding." My hands went cold. She wasn't making us pay for the bachelorette. She was making us help pay for her wedding. And she had chosen me as the easiest person to pressure. I finally understood why she had been so desperate for me to attend. If I went, I would probably pay. If I complained, she could make me look selfish. If I refused, she could tell everyone I was jealous. It was a perfect plan. Except she had forgotten one thing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to adjust. I made a plan. I would not fight. I would not scream. I would not send a single dollar. I would simply ask her to explain the numbers in front of everyone. And I was going to save every message. Because if she wanted to make me the villain, I wanted the truth to speak for itself. I waited until the group was together. Then I sent one message. "Before anyone sends money, can we please get the final itemized bill?" The group went silent. A minute later, the bride replied. "Why?" "Because the amount doesn't match the original estimate." She immediately called me. I didn't answer. Instead, I wrote. "You told us the trip was fully paid for. Then you asked for $900 each. I'd just like to understand the difference." She replied. "You're embarrassing me." I said. "I'm asking for the bill." Another bridesmaid joined. "Yes, I think we should see it too." Then another. Same. The bride stopped responding. For the next 2 hours, nothing happened. Then she sent a long message. She said she had been under enormous stress. She said she had spent months planning everything. She said she deserved to be celebrated. She said we were being insensitive. And finally, "If you don't trust me, don't come." I stared at that sentence. Then I replied. "Okay." That was it. One word. Okay. The next morning, I discovered that I had been removed from the wedding planning group. Then I was removed from the Bachelorette group. Then I received a message from the bride's cousin. "You're no longer maid of honor." I didn't cry. Not yet. I simply asked why. She replied. "She says you were disrespectful and jealous." Within hours, the story had spread. People were telling each other that I had refused to support my best friend. Someone even told me the bride had said I was bitter because she was getting married first. That hurt. Not because it was true. Because it was so completely false. I had never wanted what she had. I wanted her to be happy. I had celebrated every promotion, every relationship, every achievement. I had been the person answering her calls at midnight. And now she was rewriting our entire friendship. Then something unexpected happened. One of the bridesmaids called me. She said, "I'm not going on the trip." Why? Because I checked the numbers too. Another girl joined the call. Then another. One by one, they admitted they had been uncomfortable with the amount from the beginning. The bride had told each of us a different version of the expenses. And now everyone wanted answers. We decided to meet without her. We brought every screenshot, every receipt, every message. And the numbers finally became clear. The bride had exaggerated the costs. She had collected money from everyone. And she had planned to use the extra money to cover personal wedding expenses. But there was still one question. Why had she targeted me so aggressively? The answer came from someone I never expected. Her fiancé. He had seen the messages. And he had something to tell us. He said the bride had been worried that I would question the numbers. Because I was the only person who knew exactly what she had originally promised. She hadn't just chosen me because I was her maid of honor. She had chosen me because she thought I would keep adjusting. She thought I would be too scared to say no. She was wrong. The confrontation happened at a cafe 2 days later. The bride arrived angry. She sat down and looked at all of us. What is this? I placed the printed receipts on the table. The Bachelorette expenses. She didn't touch them. You guys are unbelievable. One of the bridesmaids said, we just want an explanation. I don't owe anyone an explanation. I looked at her. You asked us for $900 each. Yes. You originally said you were paying. Yes. You told us there were unexpected expenses. Yes. So explain these. I pushed the receipts toward her. She looked at them. For the first time, she had nothing to say. One of the girls said, the total doesn't even come close. The bride finally spoke. I was going to tell you. Tell us what? That I needed help with the wedding. Silence. She looked at me. I knew you would understand. I almost laughed. You knew I would understand? Yes. You knew I couldn't afford it. She looked away. I knew you'd figure it out. That sentence broke something inside me. Not because of the money. Because she finally admitted it. She knew exactly what she was doing. I asked her, did you really tell everyone I was jealous? She said nothing. Did you tell people I was cheap? Nothing. Did you tell people I was no longer maid of honor because I wasn't supportive? She finally looked at me. I was angry. So you lied about me? I didn't lie. You told people I was jealous. You were acting jealous. I shook my head. No. I was finally acting like someone who had a limit. She started crying. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered all the times I had adjusted for her. All the times I had said yes when I meant no. All the times I had spent money I didn't have because I was afraid of disappointing someone. And I realized this wasn't just about one trip. It was about finally deciding that my boundaries mattered too. I stood up. You don't owe me a friendship. She looked confused. And I don't owe you my money, my silence, or my self-respect. The room went quiet. I hope your wedding is beautiful, I said. But I'm not going. She asked, so you're really ending our friendship? I looked at the girl I had once considered my best friend. No. She looked relieved. I already ended the version of our friendship where I was the only one who kept adjusting. I walked out. The bridesmaids followed me. The trip was cancelled. The money was returned. And the bride's wedding happened without me. For months afterward, people told me I had been too harsh. Maybe I had. Maybe walking away from someone you love is always going to feel harsh. But then something happened that changed how I saw everything. 3 months after the wedding, I received an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from one of the bridesmaids. She wrote that she had watched me apologize for things that were never my fault. She said seeing me finally say no had given her the courage to set boundaries in her own life. Then she wrote one final sentence. You taught us that being a good friend doesn't mean abandoning yourself. I cried when I read it. Because for years, I thought being loved meant being easy to love. I thought I had to adjust. I thought I had to say yes. I thought if I stopped being convenient, people would leave. But the truth was the opposite. The people who only loved me when I was convenient were never really loving me. They were loving what I did for them. I never spoke to the bride again. I still sometimes think about the girl I used to be. The girl who would stare at her bank account and wonder how she could make someone else's dream possible. The girl who would say, "It's okay," even when everything inside her was screaming that it wasn't. I don't hate her. I feel sorry for her. Because she deserved to understand her own worth much earlier. And if I learned anything from that bachelorette trip, it was this. Sometimes the most expensive thing you can give someone isn't money. It's your self-respect. And sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is finally saying no.
Subscribe Story Vault for more such stories.